Hi everyone, James Wu back again, and now I will finally be getting to my first actual topic on font philosophy. Yes, my previous video was basically the introduction, and that was actually kind of like a last minute in-video change of decision. So yeah, like 5 seconds in, I decided, you know what, this is going to be an introductory video, not a video on a specific topic. But now this one's for the topic, and today's topic is thankfulness and gratefulness. So first of all, though, before I go talking about them, let's look up what they are, basically. So I actually went over to Google and I actually Googled their definitions. Now, for thankfulness and gratefulness, I didn't really get something that Google was like, oh, here, we actually have something. They like referred to someone else. So I decided, you know what? I took off the ness part. So basically, what does it mean to be thankful or grateful? Well, according to Google, being thankful means, well, it's an adjective, and it means pleased and relieved. So that is actually a very simple definition. Grateful, on the other hand, also an adjective, is a little bit more is not as simple, I would say, but yet it is in other words, it's not so short of a definition, but it's pretty much just as simple. So it's feeling or showing an appreciation of kindness. Being thankful, basically. And so, as you can see, that's pretty much why I decided to do the two together. They're pretty much the same thing. I couldn't really define them each in a distinct way to where they would be completely different things. So now we have a definition, but now let's get into the what. What is it? So let's take these definitions and let's kind of explain. So thankfulness and gratefulness, what are they? Well, basically it's like, have you ever thanked someone for like a favor or an action or something, like a gift like you get at Christmas or your birthday? So basically, have you ever your parents or anybody ever told you or taught you that your manners, or say thank you, or whenever like you're complaining about something and someone or your parents, probably your parents or your siblings, say be thankful, things could be a lot worse. So basically that's what they are. Basically it's that feeling of like, and it really is what they say in the definition. It is that feeling of appreciation for what someone did for you, or basically like yeah, it's just I can't say anything else. The definition just nailed it completely. So, but why? But it's kind of pointless to do a video if I'm just gonna define it. But now I think we get into the real meat of the video, like the real stuff. So that's the definition. We've outlined it. I've described what it is. Now we're gonna start getting, now the rest I'm just gonna be pretty much ranting on, because this is not really meant to this is not real, as I said in my introductory video, this is not really meant to be like an outline like here. This isn't, if it did contain, it's not meant to be purely like just purely factual, not to mention like purely like just tell and learn. Basically this is like discuss. So thankfulness. So where do I start? I mean, thankfulness. It's been really important to our modern society, the way we function. And why is it so important? Because it's because I mean, in society we have, I just don't know where to start off with this, because I mean this is really important to, has been a really important societal and cultural aspect, especially in the West. And the reason it's been so important is because like throughout the ages, thankfulness and gratefulness in many different societies, they were a way of like, this was something you must show, and in a way it is still something that we kind of have a moral obligation to show or express to people who do good to us, or who show us mercy and all of that, or who forgive us, etc., etc., etc. However, though, of course, the severity of not doing such a thing goes down. You can still be shamed for it today and all that, but you're not exactly killed. Very few societies had the same view, or an even lighter view, as our societies today. Like, let me just state that again, because that was just a terrible way to state it. There were very few societies back then that would basically have such a view on gratefulness and thankfulness. There were very few of them that had as light of a view on it, or even lighter than us. There were very few of those societies back then, and so what do I mean by as light? Well, basically, how strict of a moral obligation is it? And if it is let's just build this from the ground up. Is it a moral obligation, or is it not? And if it is, how severe or how serious of a moral obligation is it? Well, if it's a die-hard moral obligation, if it's like a moral value to the core, where basically where it's as serious as murder, the punishment's death. Let's just face it. If one's conviction is that strong, then theoretically the punishment must be as severe. However, if it's no moral obligation, why should anyone? If it's no moral obligation, why should anyone be held accountable to it? And so why is it important? Because then, if we're not grateful and we're not thankful, then comes what we call spoiled. Anybody heard of that? I'm very sure a lot of people have already heard of that word. It means you get everything you want, basically, and expect everything you want. I'm gonna throw that definition out there. I actually didn't do a Google, but based off of my life experiences, that's what I think spoiled means. Basically, to not just have everything you want, but to also not be thankful for it at the same time. For example, I have to admit, I get a lot of what I want. Not all the time, but oftentimes I get what I want. I get more freedom with my parents than I could ask for. I have more trust from them than I could ask for. And not to mention, we have a lot more than we need. So if my parents did not if they did not emphasize thankfulness or gratefulness, then I'd probably be a very entitled brat. So yeah, in other words, it's called, a more formal word for spoil is to be entitled. So, what's so bad about that? Some people ask. Well, aside from the fact that it's pretty dang annoying to those who aren't so entitled or listening to the entitled person. Yes, we often find it to be very annoying, and those people sometimes annoying. Let's be honest. No matter how much I stress to myself, you do not come down on your enemies or those who do wrong and all that. I have to admit, I just have to point it out that yes, it is a fact that most people, or it's very common for people to be annoyed by those who are entitled, especially when they're very vocal about their entitlement and all that. So, aside from the fact that they can often seem pretty annoying, why is it so important? Or how can we think about it in such a different way? Is there a right way to think about it? Well, in terms of a right way to think about it, you know what, that's really hard. I think that because, all honesty, the only right way I can think about having it, in all honesty, is very simple. Just make sure it's a trait you have in your personality. It's that simple. For me, it's that simple. It's not there's a right way to show it or anything. In all honesty, being a guy who never really completely phased into social norms and all that, I don't really have a tight standard with how you express it. You just gotta have it and make sure it's clear. That's all. So, but then, why is it so important? Well, it's because I feel like that in today's world, We, in today's world, I mean, there's so much to be afraid of, and there's so much to be angry about, and there's just so much pain, chaos, and suffering in the world, and everyone's looking at it, and they're like, can we just do something? Can we just do something? And people feel like that their actions are not enough. They feel like their actions aren't enough, and all that. And basically, and some people do this. Some people do this, however, though, not because they're like, let's do something about it. Some people are afraid it's going to be them one day, and that is actually a very valid fear. I mean, my family. I heard from my mom and dad that at one point that the 2008 financial crisis almost got the best of us. We're lucky it did not. In fact, it barely scratched us. It barely scratched us. So, that's something for me to be thankful for. That it did not send us into an economic downturn and all that, and boom. And I forgot if my dad was one of those who lost his jobs because of it, because of that crisis, but hey, he was almost all, but hey, if he was, all I know is that when he left his old company, he was immediately able to join another one. So, to able to have like steady income, another thing for me to be thankful for. So, but why do I point out my life examples now? What was the whole point of it? Well, in other words, yes, I understand that there is plenty to be afraid of, plenty to fear in the future. There is plenty of uncertainty. Yet, I have plenty to be content with. And if I have plenty to be content with, why fear it going away? Why should I fear losing it? Why? Well, why should I fear losing it? Some people could say that it's because maybe my survival depends on it. But at the same time, my response would have to be, well, there are probably people who also have people who have a two-income household, meaning their father and their mother work, and they're barely able to make ends meet. But hey, they got enough food, but yet they have enough food to eat. They have basic shelter. They just have enough to live. They don't have enough for a surplus. They may not have enough for like a fancy smartphone or a couple laptops, but hey, they might even have enough for an old-fashioned computer. Something that is pretty much necessary in today's world. Yet, they have enough. They have, like me, they have something to be thankful for. It's just not as much. So why do I point all this out, then? Well, notice that there are two different levels. Let's say there's me. Not just plenty to live off of, but more than enough for things that I want. Plenty of things for what people in my family want, such as what my siblings want, what my parents want. And so let's say that there are people at that level. Now let's say there are people who are like barely have enough to make it, but they're making it. So meaning they have enough food, water, shelter, etc. All the basic needs. Let's say they have all the basic needs. But they just don't have anything in surplus. And now let's introduce a third level. Okay? Let's say you're poor. Face it. One of your parents left the house, has abandoned you. The other one is doing everything he or she can to provide for you. You have enough money for 3 meals a day, but only 5 days of the week. The other 2 days you're only going on 2 meals a day. 2 meals a day. You have no means of communication with the outside world. You only have one rundown car. But then, who knows what. And now let's introduce a fourth level. And now let's go higher this time. Let's say that you're the son of a millionaire or billionaire, or the daughter of one, or you are that millionaire or billionaire. Let's say that let's say that you have your dream house, you have the family you could have ever wanted, and you have all the luxuries imaginable. Okay, so take those 4 levels into consideration. It is very common in today's society to look at the man above you, or the person above you, or the woman above you, and think, dang, I wish I had their stuff. Or let's make it a little more extreme. Dang, why should they have that stuff? Now, the problem is, sometimes the latter question is actually a pretty valid one. Why do they deserve that? Now, there could be plenty of reasons. They actually climbed to the top. They actually did something that was worth that much money, etc., etc., etc. Now, sorry, I'm just adjusting the camera so that the light doesn't get too bright. So, and it's very common to look to the level above, and you think, I wish I had what that person has, or why do they deserve it? And so, unfortunately, there are 2 ways to go. There are literally 2 ways to react with that line of thinking, assuming you base your actions off of it. You can either, actually no, there are multiple, but let's shift into 2 general categories. You can either attempt to steal, or you can tell them to share it. You can tell. Yeah, those are the only 2 ways. But let's be honest though. At every single level, you have a reason to not be grateful. There is always a form of reasoning that you could use to justify gaining more in any 4 of the levels. And in the end, unless if your option is either working hard or getting lucky, or negotiating properly, may I ask, there is no moral way, theoretically, to advance to the top. Now, but, however, if one of them was, so, in other words, though, so now let's go down the stealing option. So, the poor guy thinks that the other 3 should help him out. And they don't. Let's face it. They may have a moral obligation to, but you can't. But if they don't, you can't just steal it. Let's face it. We'd all admit this. The other 3 should be helping him out. Well, guy number 1's excuse is going to be, well, basically the guy who's barely has enough to live just comfortably with all his needs, will say, I'm sorry, we can't sacrifice anymore. I can't sacrifice anymore. I don't have anything to sacrifice. The middle class person, let's just say that the wealthy middle class, let's say the wealthy middle class. So lower class is what, let's just say that, I'm going to divide, so upper, middle, lower, and I'm going to say poverty class, just to make things simpler here. So poverty class thinks the lower, upper, and middle class should help him. Lower classes, I can't sacrifice anything else. Middle class, I have plenty, but I'm just going to keep it all to myself. And then the rich guy's like, yeah, screw, let's just say that. And from the poverty class guy's perspective, let's say that the upper class guy says, screw you, I'm not going to help you out. Now let's admit, the lower class guy has a reasonable argument. Middle class guy, you could say he's hoarding and all that, and upper class guy, you can say that, man, that guy was just rude. And I have to admit, third situation, I completely agree with you. Who says screw you? Who says screw you? If you're gonna turn down helping someone, at least do so politely, for goodness sake. And so that guy thinks the others should help him out. Well, basically, it doesn't matter how much he steals from them. Unfortunately, just because he's in a worse situation, let's make it this severe for the guy in poverty. It's so severe that the only reason he's able to have 3 meals a week for 5 days three meals a day for 5 days of the week and 2 meals a day for the other 2 is because he's stealing that much money. And let's say that his job provides, well, let's just say that it provides most. Let's say that these people are generally honest. Now, let's say that without stealing, he would probably go down to two meals a day every single day. Let's start off with that. Let's just face it, doesn't matter how much he stole, even if it was to feed his family and feed all his people, as much as it sounds like it's a good thing, unfortunately, that does not change the fact that stealing was wrong. Otherwise, to say it is right because of that would be, well, I forgot, what was that, okay, so basically I'm using a form of absolutism to state that. But then, to say that his stealing is right because he is poor and needs to feed his kids, however, is basically a form of circumstantial morals. It's a form of circumstantial morals. And unfortunately, through the view of absolutism, it does not change the fact that he stole and that stealing is wrong. But let's say that he wasn't steal, and then, well, actually before I get to that, now, let's say he demands that the other 2 share. He heckles them. It's not polite, and it might be immoral, but it's not illegal to heckle. It's not illegal to heckle. It's not illegal to beg. There's nothing, in my opinion, there's nothing wrong with begging, but then heckling. An attempt to coerce them by verbally humiliating them. Well, how I would define it, I don't know the dictionary definition, but what I just stated was the connotation I get. So, he heckles them for money. They give it to him. Well, they give some. It might not be much, it might be a lot, but who knows? Even though it's not exactly illegal, it's not exactly morally sound either. It does not appeal to them. It does not make them want to give any further unless if the reason they're giving is because they want him to shut up and all that. But let's say he didn't steal. Let's say he didn't heckle. Let's say that he wasn't even begging for money. Would he have something to be thankful for? Think. He's not eating 3 meals a day. He's eating 2. His housing is not optimal. And the car barely works. Does he have something to be thankful for? You tell me. Because my opinion, yes. He has something to be thankful for. Why? Hey, 2 meals. 2 meals a day is better than none. He's not on track to starving. He's alive. He's got shelter. Enough to protect him from the rain. He's got a car that works for now. At least he's got it now, instead of never. Now, let's get to the guy who... Now let's go to the guy who is lower class. When I say lower class, I mean the one who's like, has enough to get basic needs, but does not have enough to, but does not have any surpluses. Now, he wants to get ahead. What is he most likely to do? Well, let's just clear something out. All 4 can steal. It's just that it would only sound like an option to the ones on the lower end here, or like conventional stealing, basically. Actually, no. Let's admit there are ways to steal on all 4 levels. So now, how would this guy steal? Simple, like always. There's a conventional break-in or pickpocket, etc., etc., etc. Pretty much the same way. He can steal all he wants, or he can also heckle for some help. Or at this level, he might just be able to start scamming people, which is stealing, actually, scamming, stealing. But the thing is, though, the farther up you go, meaning the closer you get toward upper class, the less sound the less sound it would be to the less sound it would be to like do the heckling part. So with middle and lower class, I can't really think of a way like they would do quote unquote heckling and all that. But the things though, how would they? I don't know. And so, but then how would middle class steal? Well, you know what? Also, same conventional tactics of stealing, except that this time, like upper class now, you can add in like you can hire someone to steal or carry out a hit on someone else, etc., etc., etc. You can make legal arrangements, etc., etc., etc. But then but then now going over lower and middle class, what do they have to be thankful for? Well, let's go over the middle class guys thing. Well, he's got 3 meals a day. He's not starving. He's got adequate shelter. He doesn't have to worry that the roof will break one day. Or to a point that where it's critical and he doesn't have to worry that he doesn't have to worry about that. He might have to worry about how he's going to pay for it. But then at the same time, he's got it then. Why not? And then he's got a good running car. Yes, it might only be one car, but it's reliable. It's more reliable than the broken down one from the poverty class guys. It will get you around. It will get him around where he needs to be, and life's not going to be easy, but at least it's comfortable enough. That's for the middle class guy. Now imagine everything that he has to be thankful for is the same as the lower class guy, except that now he has a surplus of money. He can afford to treat himself to luxuries, simple luxuries, not complex ones like upper class and all that. And they might be able to afford 2 or more cars. They don't really have to worry that much about when that broken roof comes or that broken water pipe comes, how they're going to fix it. Well, no, not how they're going to fix it. If they're going to be able to pay to fix it. They don't really have to worry so much about that. And then now for upper class. I think I already well outlined how they would do the entitlement thing, where they want more. So, and remember, as I said, unless if it includes working your way back up to the top, or basically being smart, or being lucky, smart in a good way, like morally good way, then unfortunately none of these scenarios of getting ahead are gonna sound moral. So, stealing, how could he do that? Well, once again, he can hire someone, he can buy slaves and all that, blah 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 blah, he can get slaves and all that, blah 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 blah. But now let's assume, but like all the other times where we ask, what does he have to be thankful for? We're gonna assume that he doesn't. We're gonna assume that he doesn't do any of that immoral stuff. What does he have to be thankful for? Well, by this point we can actually say plenty without a doubt, and just say that he has so much money that he could make his life as comfortable as he wants it to be. So why be thankful? Why be grateful, basically? Well, because think about this: when we're not grateful, we start to become entitled. When we start to become entitled, we might start to complain, and under even more radical circumstances, or even if we go even farther, we can start to do terrible things sometimes. Nobody is immune to this, no matter the class, no matter the personality. No one's immune to it. No one's immune to it. I know this is going on long. I probably should do a part 2 so that if you decide to check out and not continue on with this, you can just do it. But at the same time, just quit the video. You know, if it's 30-minute mark, I'll do a part 2 if I'm not finished. But then so what about thankfulness and gratefulness? Well, I notice that when I'm not thankful or grateful, I notice that I start to like become really bored. I start to become angry, unnecessarily angry sometimes. And so what is it about it? And so what is it? Why? Why? Because if you're suffering in the pits of hell, why not? Well, how come you don't have every right to complain? I didn't say you couldn't complain. I just said that there is still something to be thankful for. Now, things, though, then also be complaining unnecessarily. It's bad. Because then, let's say that we're actually losing something. Well, then the people providing us that, assuming there are, they'll start to shy away. Because no one likes it when people complain. Let's be honest, I don't like it. You probably don't like it. It's easier to complain. It's easier to tolerate complaining, of course, when you're the one doing it. I understand this. Because nobody really wants to do something for someone when they're not grateful. So gratefulness, basically, will be like, finally. Gratefulness tells people that you appreciate what they're doing. And they'll like it, and they're probably likely to do it again. Sometimes it's hard to express complete gratitude. It's hard. It's hard to show it, especially in us. It's hard to express true gratitude sometimes. Especially in a world where we're taught it's the moral value and all that. And the problem is we just keep doing it, and in the end we actually kind of subconsciously lose it. And when we lose it, people are always complaining. And people are always complaining tears us apart. Tears us apart. Yeah. And when we're not thankful, I don't know. But then what about it? If we want everybody to show gratitude from the depths of their hearts, does that mean they should? Does that mean they should? Well, as much if it's a moral obligation, then they should, but at the same time, though, it's strange. It's like one of those things where we are morally obligated to do, but yet we are not entitled to receive. And when we believe we are entitled to receive gratitude or thankfulness, sometimes the one who deserves it, when they believe that they deserve gratitude and thankfulness, terrible things happen. They can do terrible things. They can justify the unimaginable. So, to those who receive gratitude, be thankful, be grateful that the person unto which you have done a kind act is thankful for. Be thankful for that. Be thankful that they're thankful. Be grateful that they have gratitude. For even though it says a moral obligation of those who receive kindness, even though it's a moral obligation, we are not entitled to receive it. Because some people, no matter how little or how much they have, they just won't be grateful. They'll be entitled. And sometimes there's just nothing you can do about it. So please, don't go doing terrible things or bad-mouthing them. Be thankful that there have been people who thank you for your kindness. Once again, as I said, it's like we are entitled to give gratitude. We are obligated to give it, yet we are not entitled to receive it. Far from it, in fact. And so, What do I believe? I believe that in the world, if we showed a little bit more gratefulness, showed a little bit more gratitude, just a little bit more gratitude here and there, the world could be a better place. People would be probably would be more willing to help each other, or I hope. And maybe with this, then, only then can we fix what people have the true right to complain about. Thank you. This concludes the end of my philosophy video on gratefulness/thankfulness for Friday, July 20th, 2018. Have a good day, everyone. I'm James Wu.